The following is a public service announcement.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror PSA presented by Scary Nerd, and as always, we are your hosts. I'm Paul.
I'm Saul.
And I'm Angie. All right, guys, we're going to a showdown this week.
That we are.
We watched Maniac, the 1980 or 81.
81-ish.
There's some discrepancy in what year this movie came
Apparently,
out.
it depends who you ask. Apparently, yeah, 80 or 81.
Yeah, 80 or 81. We're not sure.
Well, we got a bunch of different ones. IMDb says 80, and then the biography or whatever need be of the actor says 81.
The Amazon Prime said 81.
Shudder says 80.
Yeah, I
so it's one of those. It's one of
Sometime
those two.
between 1979 and 1982, this movie came out and was made. That's all we'll say.
First impressions, what a bonkers ass movie this was.
You can totally tell that it was made in the era it was made, just how by everything was done, like how it was shot, the practical effects.
That man's sweaty face will forever haunt my nightmares.
Yeah.
As it was supposed to. Okay. Here's what I think about this movie. I loved this movie. I absolutely loved this movie, and it had a very independent feel to me. And I think
that's what it was.
Yeah,
That's what it
even
was.
for an 80s movie.
And it was very like low budget, independent, like guerrilla fucking filmmaking. Because there was a lot of stuff in the movie that you can see where they're filming in New York, obviously.
Yeah.
And they didn't always get permits.
Yeah.
And if you're a no budget, like, you know, guerrilla indie filmmaker,
Yeah.
there are times that you're like, all right, we need to get the shot off and then fucking run before the cops show up.
I got
And that's
that.
literally like what they had to do, like the subway scenes, like all that shit. That was just in the middle of the fucking night in New York. That they were like, all right, nobody will be there now. Let's
Just
go.
look around. We'll
I
get
kind
out of here.
I kind of found it odd that you're in the middle of New York and you have the subway, and then when we had the scene with the nurse, nobody was there. Like, I understand that, yeah, it's a horror movie,
Yeah.
but if it did give that independent feel, because it seemed like, okay, we have to do this when there's no people around, because if there's people around, they're not going to give a shit, and they're not going to
Well,
let us film.
if you notice in the scene with the nurse, she runs up to the subway car and she's banging on it. And as they got that shot where
There's
the
a
car
guy.
is leaving, there's people on the platform. With
Oh,
her.
yeah, you can see it. Yeah.
Like, there's like 5 or 6 people, and they cut back, and it's just she's by herself
She's running,
again.
yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, they had to piece this shit together, like no permits. We're not allowed to film, but we're here in the middle of the night and in the subway just hoping for the best. Like that whole bathroom thing,
Yeah.
I bet that was like, well, where the fuck else can she hide? Like,
See,
no
I
one
was
else is here.
I had no idea that was a bathroom when I didn't realize it was a bathroom until she started washing her face. I'm like, where is she going?
That was my one big problem with this movie was that nurse scene. I liked this movie. The writing was great. It was a genuinely creepy kind of slasher movie. But that fucking nurse, I was like, bitch, you were just terrified. You're not going to stand there and wash your face. Like, get the fuck out of there. You're going to be terrified.
Well, okay,
Run. Don't just be like, oh, I guess he's not here now, and now I can be relieved. Like, no, get out of the subway. Like, get out of the underground.
I don't know. I kind of took it that maybe she thought that she was overreacting to something that wasn't really there.
No.
Well, no, she figured it out.
I don't care if you're overreacting or not. If you're hiding in the bathroom, you need to get home. Like, you need to leave. You don't need to be standing in a men's restroom washing your face on a subway in New York City.
That bathroom was the scariest thing that happened to her up until that point. Because I was like, oh,
She heard
God,
the guy come in. Obviously, there was some guy that crept in there and didn't find her.
There was somebody that came in. She didn't
she
know
has no
if it
idea
was
who
a
it was.
guy.
I don't care.
or
If
some
somebody
homeless
comes
person.
into the bathroom and then turns around and leaves and you think somebody was following you, you just assume that's the guy.
Yeah.
Okay, either way, I have to say, I gotta give it to the bathroom scene. All right, I gotta give a shout out to Flaco con Maria, Hot Honey 68, and Margaret, who was all written on the walls everywhere. So
I didn't do that.
They got
You
lucky,
noticed
and
the
they
dumbest stuff.
they got lucky, and they were in the movie without even having to having him to do anything with the movie.
The thing that I thought was funny about that whole killing scene is the one thing I told Kim was, why is she making these weird facial expressions?
Oh, I know.
Like, I understand that you're trying to be quiet,
but
she's like whimpering.
She was like,
heavy breathing.
Like,
and then
you're not hiding?
and then when he kills her too, like when he pulls her down and you see her face in the mirror, if you watch this movie before you watch it, or if you watch it again, pay attention to her face because she gives this weird she gives a weird surprised look on her face instead of a terrified look on her face.
Well, it just came out of nowhere, so she was surprised.
No, it was just weird. It looked more like surprised than horrified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were at times where I was like, were the actors confused about what like they were trying to?
Maybe it was an independent film trick to where I was like, all right, and then you wash your face, and then you're gonna turn around, but they don't tell them like he's gonna be behind you, and like. 'Cause I mean, I don't know, like there may have been something like that kind of going on. But
The other funny thing I thought about that whole killing scene of leading up to where they found her when she was going into her change purse to try to put the change in the little turnstile thing. Mm-hmm. How like as soon as she opened it, she threw everything on the ground. Like she wasn't even trying to act like it fell. You can tell she just totally threw it, and then she's on purpose making her hand shake rather than doing the nervous shake. Mm-hmm. Which I'm like,
I know I kept thinking that you're gonna leave that change there, and you're just gonna pay for him to get in too. Like,
yeah, it's like pick up your change. He's
like,
going to use that.
Find the token or whatever. It's like,
so I thought that was funny with that whole nurse scene.
The soundtrack in this movie is as equally as crazy as
the soundtrack,
the suspenseful background, the score, that violin
that was
suspenseful.
a whole other character in itself.
What was it, the 80s synthesizers?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the very beginning, right off the bat, like you get the score that comes in, and that little like chimes kind of thing was very like reminiscent of Halloween to me.
Yeah.
So it had that kind of like that like screechy chime thing, like right off the bat, like how Halloween has that one. And it just started as like full on slasher. Mm-hmm. So I think like
because it opens to the beach.
It opens to the beach, and then
and he immediately murders this couple that is sleeping on the beach.
Wait, were they homeless people or are they just
I think they're camping?
Sleeping on a, they had
I wrote down, why are you sleeping on this beach?
They had like a picnic blanket, and she's
and
like,
a cooler.
She's like, go get more wood, and he's just like finding like driftwood that's washing up on shore.
I think they were camping.
And like I get the beach is nice and all, but I've never sat next to a beach and it not be fucking windy and cold. Like,
I can only imagine, especially in New York.
And like, wouldn't you wake up with like sand like all blown on your face and like
that doesn't seem like fun.
I don't know.
That seems awful.
For whatever reason, it just seems to me like New York beaches are always cold.
Yeah, that's because you always see those pictures of them like snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about the opening scene of the murders.
Oh yeah, the death right off the bat, it gives you gory deaths.
Yes.
Like you don't even have to see everything, but it gives you buckets of blood.
I love how when he slit the girl's throat, they did the practical effect of it looked like, I don't know how they do it, but it looked like the blade had the feed of the blood that went in there because as soon as he started dragging it across her
Oh
throat,
yeah, it started coming out.
I'm sure there's
yeah.
like just a tube on the side.
Oh yeah, and Master of Horror Tom Savini did all the practical effects for this
If you hold
film.
it at a certain angle, you can make it look like that. So yeah, and they
I love
figured
how
a way to do it.
I love how they had that because you're like, oh, and then when you realize it was Tom Savini who did all of the practical effects, it's like, okay, it's going to make the gore and blood that much better.
Oh, we'll get back to Tom Savini later because he has a scene
His
in this
death.
movie that we have to talk about.
Yes.
But let's get back to the gory deaths on the beach. I liked the whole creepiness of it. Like it was so slashery. Like they were obviously being stalked, and then you get their deaths, and it immediately takes you to the maniac who wakes up, and you can see he was dreaming. And so you kind of don't know if those deaths actually happened, but you assume they do.
Deaths
Yeah.
happen. No, those
They
deaths happen.
happened.
You can confirm those later. But,
Yeah.
Because like any serial
Well, I'm
killer,
saying when you watch the movie.
any serial killer, he watches his own crimes and he hears on the radio,
Yes.
he's watching the news, like he reads the paper. So yeah, those deaths were real.
But it's one of those things that 80s movies, and I guess just movies of the past did, was they gave you such a long introduction. Like
everyone.
the intro credits
Okay,
is so
okay.
long. in this
So
movie.
it's okay. There's a thing that you're not getting though. Okay, you're thinking about it in today's standards, right?
No, I'm thinking about it my own standards.
No, in 80s, all 80s movies were like that.
I know.
All movies back then had huge introductions.
Oh, I know. That's what I said. 70s
And I think no,
movies.
and more so with this movie, I think that was an artistic choice, and not because we're gonna show all the credits while he's sitting here like getting dressed or washing his face and all that shit. It was really to showcase his living condition in his like studio, like basement apartment.
I don't even know what the hell
was.
that was.
I don't know what that was either.
So it was kind of just showcasing, like, look how he lives. Like, you see this guy complete isolation, batshit crazy. Definitely got some issues.
No, I was aware of what they were going
So,
for, but I could sum that up in a 30-second clip. I didn't need a 4 to 5 minute introduction.
Yeah, but I think everybody's attention spans back there were bigger now than today's standards because everybody got
No, I just think that they thought that they were.
And I think people back then would have probably like you showed too much of that too quickly back then. Like it would like scare people too much.
Oh no, that doesn't make sense because they immediately kill those two people. They immediately have these great deaths, and then they take 5 to 10 minutes to introduce us to this guy's apartment.
Because you got to understand his madness.
Because now you're getting to know him.
Yeah, you got to understand the madness.
It does feel like it's two different movies. It starts off as a full-on slasher.
Yeah.
But then it turns into like this guy's descent into madness and like his like depravity and like
oh yeah, he's
perversion.
definitely
like,
got like basic serial killer.
Well,
Movements down.
Here's what I like. Here's why I really like this movie. Right, he's got a very Ed Geinish, kind of influence to him. He's got the mother issues, right?
Yeah.
So think about like all the other movies that have Ed Gein ties to it. He's like Psycho, Silence of the Lambs, stuff like that. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Jason.
All of those movies happen in a semi-isolated area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like. Buffalo Bill had his, private well or whatever in his basement, all that. They all operated with some anonymity and, isolation. They could hide in where they were as to where this guy, the scarier thing about him, I think, is he's hiding in plain sight because he just looks like every other guy that's walking the New York streets in the middle of
serial killer.
And then later on, you get this whole back thing on him where he's actually sociable and talks to people.
Yeah. So, okay, guys, maybe that's why you guys like this movie so much because they just made this guy into a real life serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying you're taking that Ed Gein character and you're putting him in the city instead of isolation.
No, what they're doing is they're taking a serial killer like Ed Gein and putting him in a normal situation in which he was. He went and talked to townspeople. He went shopping. He went out into the world. People knew him.
Yeah, but that was like,
And it was a big deal when everybody found out. I can't believe he would do that.
But that was
it's the same thing like all normal, like the actual, I don't want to say normal serial killers. I want to say actual serial killers.
You're run-of-the-mill serial killer.
Yes, the real ones in the world, they don't usually, they're not in isolation. They're right in the middle of everything like everybody else.
I think that's
where
what
they
this
hunt.
movie did different, though, because like what Paul's point was is you have all those other type of slashers, too, where you would say, okay, they're in isolation, but they're crazy. I think the good thing about this movie is they took that aspect and they put it in a big city where he was hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, it's like they were able to hide their craziness. It's like you're saying, like if Ed Gein goes to town once a week and, buys stuff at the general store, blah, 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 whatever, right?
I mean, Son of Sam wasn't caught in Chicago, guys. I mean, that's what happens.
Yes, but I'm thinking they didn't have anything like this at this point.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they definitely updated the slasher to made real life. Like we said, it goes back to a more independent feel. They made a horror slasher movie, but with real life attributes to it.
Yeah, and I think...
And that's what makes it twice as creepy.
I think that's what makes it twice as creepy for people, especially thinking like in an 80s angle to where it's like, this was the start of getting those guys like, Bundy started to come around and all those other things. Like these were starting to be more like, I don't want to say mainstream, but it's like, I think people started to realize like this can happen anywhere. Like before that it was like, oh, Ed Gein was in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin,
Well,
they had no idea.
I think 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
they
and I
really
think once you
amped up.
started to get like, some of the other things like in San Francisco, like you want to do like the Black Dahlia murders or anything like that, or, those started to become, I think it's scary to people to think like this can happen anywhere now, not just out in the country anymore.
Yeah. That's what I liked about it. That's what I think gave it that more even creepier feel is it seemed like this shit can happen next door or whatever need be.
Yeah.
The fact that it gave it that more, this shit can actually happen rather than just in the movies is what I think I liked about it. Is it just gave you that creepy, creepy vibe.
That independent like rawness made it seem like it was grounded in more reality than like, this is a slasher, movie that's a kind of fantasy slasher kind
I
of
found
thing.
myself sometimes uncomfortable at the scenes because I'm like this. I almost feel like I'm intruding in somebody's life right now.
You're being forced to watch this person's descent into madness.
Yeah.
And you have no ability to stop or help them.
He did
And it's so real world. I found myself focusing on things like when he meets the hooker and he like takes her to the hotel. And they're like making out. I'm like, do you kiss hookers? Don't kiss a hooker.
Yeah.
I'm like, do hookers kiss dudes? Because hookers, if you're out there, don't kiss dudes. You don't know what those people have
what if dudes pay for that? All right.
Well, if you pay for it, get it, girl. But like,
if the guy's willing to kiss you, why wouldn't you kiss him? Huh?
He doesn't know what you've done.
I'm just saying,
he knows
ladies,
what they've done.
if you're out there and you
if,
charge for kissing, that's a
the
charge.
only way you're kissing hookers if you're into that, or maybe it's your first time with the hooker. I would imagine. You're like, oh, honey, we don't kiss. Like,
Quick questions. Anybody had a hooker in this room?
No.
Okay.
I've been propositioned by one.
Of course you have.
Hey,
when you go to Vegas, what do you think happens?
I was in Vegas.
Hey, I've been in Vegas, and they just had the guys.
Those guys were awesome.
No, we're not talking about the porn passer outers.
Yes, I've only seen the porn passer
No,
outers.
it was like in the middle of the night, and we were drunk. And a lot of my stories start this way, by the way.
Yes, they do.
And we were going back to our hotel, and or my friend's like, "Oh, we're going to our room." Like, where are you going? She's like, "I'm going to the moon." And he's like,
that hooker was high.
Yeah, no, like, so my buddy is like, "You're going to the moon. How do you get there?" And she was like, $500. And I laughed and keep walking, and I'm like, "Yeah."
Hey, she knows her worth. All right.
I don't think anything is worth that.
I wouldn't say 500. I mean, that's $500 a lot. But hey, she knows her worth. When you know your worth, you stick to it.
It's negotiating tactics.
So
you start high, I start low. We meet in the middle. Literally.
The whole hooker scene. This was when I was starting getting glimpses of whether or not I have seen this movie or not, because that whole scene seemed familiar. And when I think back on it, I think the only reason why it seemed so familiar is I remember when IFC used to do a little documentary thing on Fridays where they would talk about certain movies, and I think that's where I saw it. Because I remember that opening scene, and I remember the end too. So when I think back on it, that's probably why I think I was familiar with this movie, especially with those parts.
Yeah.
Okay, so having only been technically propositioned by a hooker once in my life, can someone please explain? Hey, all right.
Continue.
He's got questions.
I'm curious about something. What's the difference between the regular, the French regular, around the world, and the ultimate?
That's what the hooker said, isn't it?
I was like,
he offered her the ultimate.
Because the ultimate just includes her weird like aerobic stretching and dancing.
Well, the ultimate, I guess, would be whatever.
Yeah.
I would say the ultimate is like, we'll go to a hotel room, you tell me what to do, kind of a thing.
Well, he wanted to choke her, so she was holding
No, he
back.
wanted to murder her.
Well, I know
She didn't know that. So he paid for the ultimate, which included that.
FYI, just full disclosure, I was eating a bag of chips while watching this movie. I had to turn the subtitles on. But there kept being the subtitles. Was she cheering him on, or was he the one saying, "You're so good"?
No,
It was him.
It was him?
It was him.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It was kind of both. Like he would say something, like she would say something back. So I think they were kind of both doing. But okay, wait. Here's another thing I noticed in the whole hooker scene. Right when he goes and it's like $100 for the ultimate, right? And they go in to get the room, and the guy's like, it's this much, it's this much, it's that. When they first walk in, she's like, give me my favorite room. And I was like, gross. Like, you want to take me to your room that you get regularly? Like, it's like, this hotel does not clean the sheets by the hour, all right? So if you're getting her regular room, like, why would you spring for the color TV? That was my other fucking question. He's like, are we really going upstairs to be watching fucking TV right now? Like,
hey, you don't know. Maybe after the ultimate, he wants to turn the TV on and watch Jay Leno or something. I don't know.
Basically,
was Leno on that?
No, it was Carson. Wow.
What? I'm not
I'm
that
turning
old.
your microphone off for a minute. You're turning. So yeah, you're gonna go to the old cummy room that she brings her regulars to.
Why is there so much
TV.
cum in all these horror movies?
Hey,
you're saying that Paul's perverted?
Hey,
He said cum
me.
first.
It's not me. All right, the guy goes with a hooker in New York City in some hotel, and I'm like, this reminds me of that scene in Big where he's like, the first night where he's gotta find out.
Oh yeah.
He's scared. He's
St.
just
James
a little
Hotel.
kid. Yeah.
Miguel, get out of that bathroom now. Oh, I remember that movie very well.
Well, we're not talking about Big. We're talking about Maniac.
We're talking about Maniac.
So they start making out on the bed, and he says, I can't.
It's very Shakespearean.
It is.
The way you say it. I don't think he was quite as dramatic.
He's like 3 different characters in this fucking movie. Like, because you can see where he does the switch. Like,
does he have split personalities, do we think? Or
I
do you
think he does.
It's just like
I think they were alluding to it, but it was more of like he hadn't fully broke that into it yet, but he had different people he talked to in his head.
Well, yeah. I mean, he definitely repressed to like a childhood state for certain things, but then I don't think the killer part and the non-killer part. So there was like 3 people in there at least.
Yeah, but like just the way he looks. So like when you can see it, like they're making out and he's perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden he just starts choking the bitch, and then his face is instantly sweaty.
That
He's
took
like
forever.
It did, and it was like, and they weren't even like sometimes video. It was looked like still shots of the girl dead. I was like, could she just not hold her breath?
I wrote down it took forever for her to die, and it had time for her to turn into like his mom 3 different times.
And she talked the whole time. And if you're getting choked, you can't talk.
Screaming. Maybe stop it. What are you doing?
She's like, help.
I know, you talked, and then 2 seconds later, you want me to believe you were dead? At first, I was like, she's going to wake up any minute. Like, you didn't finish the job, man. Like,
the thing that I was waiting for is when you assumed she was dead is when he started scalping her. I'm like, she's going to fucking wake up.
That's
what
I
didn't
thought,
know
too.
what he was doing at first. Like, I saw that, like, he had start scalping her or whatever, but then he just leans down, and then that's the end of the scene, and you're like, it made it way more menacing than he just took her fucking scalp.
I thought she was gonna wake up.
He was literally gonna skull.
There were some times when he started doing that rocking back and forth thing. I was like, is he humping the mannequin?
He likes a dry hump. All right, the ultimate. He paid for the ultimate. He wants a good dry hump. Okay,
like no, he does it. He does it a couple times, but it's so little, and it's always like when he's laying next to somebody. I'm like, this dude likes humping things. He's a weird dude.
It's the childhood state that it reverts to.
That's what it could have been.
Oh, well, yeah. A lot of the whole. We can get into days of true crime, sexual repression, and all that, but we won't. We're talking Maniac, not real life.
His mommy issues and whatnot, and
being put in the closet.
Just so I'm straight with this, right? I took it as she threw him in the closet while she was turning tricks, basically.
That's what I assumed, but that could have just been from other things that I've seen.
Well, no, because the scene...
I know I've seen a lot of, true crime shows where
the scene where he's got the model Rita...
Oh, and he's like, there were so many men.
There were so many men. Yeah. Why? Because they gave you a few dollars, and it was when he was playing with the knife and all that.
That's true.
It's like, because they gave you a few dollars, none of them ever loved you. I was the one that loved you.
Maybe his mom was a hooker. Who knows?
That's what I'm assuming, that she was a hooker, and he had to hide in the closet and saw some stuff.
But okay, so the picture that he has, those candles were a huge fire hazard if you're just gonna sleep with a shrine of candles going in your apartment.
He's got no electricity, right? How does he have money for anything? They don't show him go to work.
They
at all.
don't.
Does he rob these people
to work.
too?
You think he does?
I don't know, because they don't show him go to work.
He doesn't go to work. But he's got a pretty decent couple suits that he wears when he takes the other chick out for a date.
The thing that cracked me up about when he took the girl on the suit, I don't know if you noticed it though, but when he had his hair slicked back and the mustache, the first thing I thought was it's a discount Ron Jeremy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Can we talk about the chick, Carolyn? Let's talk about that relationship real quick.
Photographer,
Carolyn, right? Or no, Carolyn's her real name, right? Anna is her character's name.
What the fuck was she into him for?
Okay. No, here was my first question, right? He knocks on her fucking door, and she's like, "Who is it?" And he's like, "My name's Frank. You took a picture of me in the park yesterday. I just wanted to talk to you." And she walks in and is like, "Oh, come in." I'm like, Did you know him from before?
I'm like, this guy doesn't look safe.
She completely is like he has a whole weird dialogue where he's like, "She's yours forever. Like in this picture, she'll never age, she'll never die, she'll never leave you, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Let's go to Clam's Casino," which I'm like, that sounds like a strip club, first of all. But she's like, "Oh, I know this place in Jersey. Let's go Clam's Casino." It's like, we're going to go see strippers and, have a buffet, that whole thing. So she's like, "Yeah, I'll be ready in 5 minutes." I'm like, "What?" I know. You were like...
And then, he calls her later on. He's like, "Hey, you want to go pick up a show? I'll be ready in 5 minutes." I'm like, "What?"
Can you be ready in 15 minutes? She's like, I'll be ready in 10. I'm
Did
like,
you notice?
Hell?
I know we both noticed it, but did you notice that when he got back in his car, that it was parked on the sidewalk?
Yeah. Yeah, he just parked on the sidewalk to get on the payphone.
Because we looked at it, I was like, is he on the sidewalk? Like,
And
yep, he is on the sidewalk.
for some reason, even after the hotel hooker scene and all that, where she wants her favorite room, using the payphone was still more gross to me in this movie than anything else. Oh, God, like, don't put that on your ear.
Especially in New York.
Right.
Yes, and I'm like, oh, like in a neighborhood where you can park in the sidewalk and no one will tell you anything. Like, oh, look at this idiot. He's going to use the fucking payphone. Don't use it. Oh.
No.
I love like when he gets
That
ready.
crackhead put his butt on it yesterday.
I think he put more of his butt on it.
I love when he gets like ready to go out. I wrote a night stalking. We will go because it's such a like. I gotta get ready, get my coat on, get my hat.
He's got to get his accessories ready. And then,
Like he gets ready and he's gonna go find his next victim.
shotgun in the violin
in the
case.
violin case.
Yeah, I was
yes.
wondering what he was doing because here's the weird thing that I thought was, I thought it was going to be a slasher because you see the first couple get murdered the way they get murdered. Then you see the hooker get killed the way she got killed. So I'm like, okay, he's not going to cover up his face again when he's killing the hooker. And then when he goes and he does the whole thing with the violin case, I'm like, what is he doing? Is it not going to be slasher? What's he doing? Because now it looks like he's going to go stalk and hunt for his people.
Yeah, and that's when we get the Tom Savini scene. Is when he goes.
It's the whole thing. Like, it's almost if the whole time like he was doing this and not really trying to hide his identity or anything, but not really also, coming out and saying I'm the killer or anything to anybody. It was almost like he's like that whole like, please, I want someone to stop me and I can't stop myself kind of thing. Like, not that he wanted to get caught, but he wasn't worried if he got caught kind of thing.
Well, he kept talking to the other voice in his head that's saying, if they catch you, they're going to take you away from me. And they
See, that's what I wasn't. Was he doing the voice as like the mom, or was
I have
he?
no
was it
clue.
I
his
think that was
other-
part of his multiple personality thing. is
And
he
like
had
later they show it like he's dressing up one of his mannequins and he's like dressed different. And I'm like, okay, so is he being his mom or is there a personality that he's trying to?
I don't know. That's what I kind of took. Like, he was viewing things from the mom at some points to where like the whole mannequin thing. Like, didn't he make one like change or something? Like, I don't remember, but he kept changing.
Didn't he make all the mannequins look like the people?
He got
the women that he
clothes
killed?
that
Yeah.
were similar to what they
Yeah.
were wearing. If not, like I think the nurses was the actual one because it had a little blood on it.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think the reason why he got mad at the nurse one is because she was she was the
From
only
scalp.
blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was like, "You got a little bit dirty, but that's okay."
Yeah.
Yeah, and the hair was-
the hair was basically ruined.
Yeah, because it was covered in blood.
Oh, but another thing that producer Kim picked up on, she told me about later that I'm going to mention right now is, I don't know if you guys noticed it, but every single one of his kills, he had his kill clothes. So it
Oh, yeah,
basically
his
uniform.
jacket.
Yeah, he had his
Yeah.
uniform, his beanie, and yeah.
His beanie.
His beanie. Well, that's the thing about it though. Like he didn't have his
kill
beanie when he killed the hooker and the Tom Savini. So let's get to Tom Savini. And
Well, she wasn't a hooker. She was just some
they were
lady
just
in
there.
the-
They were just
were
random. He
just
just found him. He stalked him. So let's talk about
Yeah,
that.
he just saw a couple.
Yeah, so he goes out night stalking, and I think he just goes to a bar. Isn't it just a bar?
It's like a club or something that
Yeah.
they're standing out of.
and he
outside of.
sees Tom Savini leave with this girl.
He was being a real like herd burger.
What?
Tom Savini.
What's a herd burger?
Okay, so like this is what me and my buddies used to call it. Like right in college, like if you had a dude that was like how Tom Savini was being like, "Oh, your boyfriend's not here," like that kind of
Being
guy,
your
like
80s,
just being
dude.
like that like kind of schmucky like dude, like come on,
Yeah.
that's not right. Like doing something like even guys were like, "Come on, man, like that's not."
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So yeah, we used to call him like you're being a real herd burger. I don't know why we came up with that. But,
But he's being one of those.
so
Okay.
yeah, so he was being that. And
Gotcha.
So yeah, because even when she's like, "I see someone," he's like, "Nah, nobody's there,
I
baby."
know. Let's just have sex real quick.
The thing that I thought was funny
Let
were
him
all
watch.
his cheesy lines about how, oh, I got somewhere to be. Where do you have to be?
Yeah, you want to meet me in the back seat?
Yeah.
Could you
Yeah.
meet me somewhere?
Yeah, his whole
But yeah, but
lines.
she kept going with it. At that
Yeah.
point, I'm like, all right, well, you deserve to die, you stupid bitch.
Yeah. It was such a weird scene because it does seem like he's pressuring her at first because she was like,
Yeah.
I got to get home. I'm
Yeah,
like,
my
my
boyfriend gotta
boyfriend's
get
going to
home
be
too.
real
My
mad. And
boyfriend's
like,
going to kill me if I don't get home soon.
Well,
Yeah.
guess what's going to happen now?
If you don't get home from being out at the... Wait, what?
I know.
I'm
And then
confused here.
after she died and like the news is going on, I'm like, oh, her boyfriend's going to be like,
I know, I
he
kept
died
thinking
with
I kept thinking
Another
that.
dude.
Like even if she survived, like how are you gonna explain this without making it look
Because the
bad?
news was like a couple. They found a couple in a car.
yeah, like parked under the bridge. And like,
Let's talk about Tom Savini's death though, because that came out of
His
nowhere.
head
It was like, holy
explodes.
shit!
yes, that
He
is
gets
what was the
shot
best
in the
death.
head,
That
and it
was freaking
explodes.
crazy to me.
It is crazy because Maniac Frank they turn on the headlights and you
he's
see him.
there.
He's just there, and he hops on the hood of the car and shoots Tom Savini in the head, and Tom Savini's head just.
Well, you
fucking
knew he was going to shoot him with a
explodes.
shotgun, but you didn't realize
Yeah.
that he was going to run towards the car, jump on the
Yeah.
hood, and shoot him and blow his head up.
And that was another example of like the very like raw, independent feel to that scene, especially the kill scene. And I know that was specifically one of the scenes where like we don't have a permit, we're just gonna go park, we'll do this shit, and get the hell out of here. So I don't know if they actually like shot through the the windshield or whatever, but that doll apparently Tom Savini used in other movies, and they had to retire it after this because too much fake blood was on it. They was like, well, you can't really use it anymore.
Kim found somewhere that it was also the body used for Jason Voorhees' mom.
Yes. Yeah. So they've used it for a while.
Nice.
So it had a good run. It's probably hopefully it's in some museum or something.
You would hope.
I want it then. If nobody
I
has
would
it.
I would imagine it'd be at Tom Savini Studios.
Who knows? Back then they probably didn't even think about it. Like, all right, well we can't use it anymore. Just throw it away.
Yeah, hopefully it's still
that makes
somewhere.
me
That'd be a
sad.
great piece.
That makes me sad if
piece
that
of
happened
horror
because you have
history.
something like that. And
You know what? Damn it! When we saw him a few years ago, if
We
I would have
should've
thought about
asked.
that, we would have known. Could have asked him.
Oh, I have more notes about the nurse's murder. So we see the two nurses come out of the hospital. There's two nurses that come out, and she's like, "Oh, one of the nurses is like, "Oh, can I give you a ride?" And she's like, "No." And then she stands there waiting for somebody for literally like 3 seconds, and then gets pissed and decides to walk to the subway. I'm like, why didn't you just go with your friend then?
Was she
Yeah.
waiting for somebody, or was
it
her
looked
plan?
like it because she kept like looking at her watch.
Well, the other thing about it though too is I think at that point they'd already seen, and I remember them saying something about along the lines that there's a killer on the loose or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like,
they start the scene by talking about like, oh, do you want this newspaper or whatever? She's like, yeah, I already read it on my break, blah blah blah. And then it's like, oh, you see the headline or whatever, and like they talk about it for a few seconds, and I'm like, okay, you just talked about how there's a fucking serial killer out on the loose somewhere.
3 people that have been killed.
And your friend just offered you a ride.
Right, just
And
take
you're
the
like,
ride.
I know, like, what's the, like, oh, I don't want to impose.
So that's our PSA for this week, people. Just go with your damn
Take
friends.
the fucking ride.
if there
okay?
is a serial killer on the loose and the media
Well, even
is
if there's
telling
not,
you,
like, don't wait for a fucking
Don't
serial
wait
killer
for a ride,
to
just
be
go.
on the loose. Like, I don't think, don't wait till the serial killer on the fucking loose. Like, just take the ride now. Like, what if you're number one? Like, if you would have taken the ride, you would avoid
Yeah.
being number one. That serial killer would change his mind. Like, you know what? I was going to come out and stalk you tonight. There was nobody there. Maybe I should just rethink this whole serial killer business and
Make
go to
better
church.
life choices.
Right.
Make better life
Make
choices.
Go to church and then kill other people.
You don't want to end up in a subway men's bathroom murdered with a sword.
yes,
Because he literally murdered her with a
he
sword.
does.
That's can you think of a worse place? Is there a worse place to die in New York?
Then a
What's-
men's
what's
bathroom in a
okay,
subway.
the subway,
Yes.
not the restaurant, like the actual
No, the men's
subway.
bathroom in the in the fucking
The underground
Ugh.
transit system.
Yeah, nobody
bathroom
wants to die there.
with what is it, Flacco and Maria?
My snobby ass would be dying, bleeding out on the floor, and be like, "Can you at
Sweet.
least put a coat down in between me?" please?"
Like I know I'm dying, but can you at least keep me at least somewhat clean?
Just like I don't want to die in the pool.
At least
whatever
that
this
poor
is.
actress didn't have to like
Lay on the
down
floor,
for
yeah.
a death scene or anything. So they were like, okay, we won't make you do that, but we have to do it in here. There's nowhere else to film this scene right now.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have his 4th victim in the nurse.
He kills that bitch with a sword, and then he washes it in the bathroom.
Yeah, he just goes, well, what are you gonna? You can't carry. He's already gonna have all that blood leaking
Well, why
in
the
his
fuck
bag.
would you have a sword? It's the most impractical method to kill somebody.
Oh, I thought the hammer was the most impractical weapon to have.
Yeah.
If you're fighting reapers in Blade.
No, the Reaper would have died either way.
Yes.
So hammer is fine.
No.
If that bitch had a hammer, she might.
Wait,
have
wait,
lived.
She
wait,
might have
wait,
made
wait.
it out. Hammer
wait,
would have
wait.
worked for her.
Let me get something straight. Okay, you're saying that the sword was impractical for him to be killing people with?
Yes, and the
But
subway.
Blade has a freaking sword that he kills vampires
But
with.
his is like hidden. He's at least got a holster somewhere. Like that guy's
Okay.
just got a sword.
Yeah. He's just out in the streets. Okay, but think about this though. You see some guy in a coat and a fucking beanie with a violin in the suitcase, right? And he's going on the streets. You're not going to think anything like, oh, this guy's going to go play on 4th Street with those other homeless guys, or, you know, the performers, like street performers kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So no one's going to think of anything. I mean, the news isn't like, look out for a guy with a violin case. Like, no one knows. He's killed all the victims. Like, no one ever gets away. There's no ever any witnesses. I mean, there's no CSI and shit like that. So
obviously.
So no one's gonna think twice about some kind of semi-homeless
speaking of
guy.
no CSI, we'll come back to the end part.
Yeah. I have issues with that.
Oh, so many issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of my notes says, "Why is this chick hang out with Frank?" There's no Anna. There is no reason that this chick should be into Frank.
Dinner.
I'm like, why are you into him completely? Like, he brings nothing. Like, he was like, oh, I'm a painter. I'm an abstract landscapes. I'm like, those aren't the same thing.
And she's
like,
clearly a photographer who is, like
Fancy.
fancy.
She has like a show coming up.
Yeah,
like,
she does that photo shoot with the most ridiculous song.
Yes,
which led us into this podcast, which
Yes.
you guys put me off to the lyrics.
The lyrics are insane.
And I think that song choice. I don't know. Okay, I don't know where this song came from.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Like,
But
was it made for the movie?
Yeah, I'm almost like, that is too perfect. Like, did they make this for the movie? Because even with the crazy ass lyrics that are in that fucking song, that song fits so well with what is going on in the movie and how the movie ends.
It foreshadows pretty much everything that's going to happen.
Foreshadowing. So I'm like, did they make that song for the fucking movie? Either way, it's batshit crazy like this fucking movie is. In a good way. In a way that you're like, this is fun to watch.
The whole photo shoot, it takes me back to the episode of the stuff that we did when we talked about
when it was on, I was like, bring in the stuff.
That's what it reminded me so much. It reminded me of that part of the stuff. I'm like, that's what I was waiting for.
Weird crossover mix.
I was waiting for, what's his name? Dude from Mo. I was waiting for Mo to pop up with his business card.
He's going to come shut it down. Like, all right, shut it down, everybody.
The thing that I was waiting for was to have the whole little crossover thing. We're like, oh, they're having the photo shoot, but this movie splinters off over here. And then we go, this movie
Mr. Frank, how you doing?
I was just waiting for that to splinter off. Be like, oh, these were the two movies meet.
Yeah.
Like, I know, that's Mo. I know what's going on in that other movie.
Chocolate Chip Charlie.
That's what I was waiting for.
You guys are getting off topic.
I'm not even talking. I don't know who you guys are.
Okay, back on topic then.
Okay, so some of the things that I noticed around his room. Let's talk about his room for a little
Wait,
bit.
I want to talk about how in that scene he gives that bitch a bear?
Oh,
Does he?
Oh, yeah. I
In a
put down,
giant box.
Oh, yeah.
What did I write down? I write down, like, was that like a trophy from a victim, maybe?
I don't know, but it was a really odd gift.
I took it as the reason why he gave her that gift was as he was trying to woo her. Ultimately, she could give him what he wanted was immortality in the pictures, because that's kind of what I figured is why he was so interested in her.
I don't know. It was weird. Like, at first I thought he wanted to kill her, but then he kind of got fixated on the pictures,
front, on
the model,
and then kills the model.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, I don't know what his motivation or what his
he was a maniac.
was.
Nobody knows
what his end game was with Anna, though, because at the end when he takes her, like,
initially, what I thought also is when she took pictures of him, I thought again he's thinking serial killer mentality is somebody has a picture of me.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought that's why he went and looked at her bag, and he was like, okay, this is where I can get that picture.
Like, she took my picture. I don't want anybody to know who I am, because at that point you can believe he was living in anonymity.
Yeah.
Well, even with that picture, you're not going to be able to identify.
No, not
him.
much. But even
But still, though, he's probably,
even just knowing he's a white male, certain heights, that could still be.
I'm just thinking it's him thinking it's a serial killer. Somebody has my picture.
An Italian person in New York, right? That narrows it down.
An Italian white male.
Oh, okay.
That's what I just.
Be on the lookout for an Italian male walking around the streets of New York.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait, he's got glasses, too, sometimes.
Sometimes
He looks like Ron Jeremy.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And then he's like, he wants to take her to a show, and he's just like, yeah, I'll be ready. But then he's like, hey, we need to swing by the cemetery.
Yeah, do you mind? I wrote down, worst date ever. Like,
how would you even bring that? This is probably what?
Do you mind if we go swing by? I want to introduce you to my mom first.
Who happens to be dead.
Oh, my God.
Who happens to be dead.
She died on Christmas.
She did.
I
Paul noticed.
her December 25th. So that further fucks him up.
Did
for
anybody
sure.
else
Like,
think that there was going to be a fucking werewolf? That was werewolf fog, man.
That
The
was.
whole time the movie, I was like, I kept thinking, is there this much fog in New York City?
I know.
Like, I don't know.
Like, there's a werewolf somewhere in this movie.
Like it would have been like he stands up on the hood to kill Tom Savini, then a fucking werewolf comes and gets him. Like
eats
that's
him.
the
That's
movie
the
we're
movie we
making.
need.
Like we need to
Yes.
make.
But let's get into the end because it kind of takes that route. His
just
mannequins come
weird.
to
No,
life.
before that, when the mom comes out of the grave,
Yes. Yeah.
that took a weird game because like I take that all as like his just further descent into fucking madness.
He's going into psychosis.
So
Yeah.
he's freaking out like when that whole thing where he's just screaming, and it made me think too. I'm like, you guys are just in the middle of the night of this fucking cemetery
Yeah,
with
for
no
sure they
permit.
are.
No one knows you're filming, and he's on his knees screaming.
Yeah.
And I'm like, someone's gonna come out. Like, there's probably, if we, could find like deleted scenes. I mean, that's not a thing, and back then or whatever. There's probably like someone shined a flashlight, or the cops came like, fuck, let's go.
Oh shit! He said the signal. Run!
Tom, start the car.
But yeah, that whole thing again. Paul was right. It's who does that on a date? Because this is probably their third, maybe fourth date, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna go."
Okay.
Go to the
here.
cemetery.
Okay, so here's my question as producer Kim and Angie as the women of the group, right?
Mm-hmm.
If some guy had picked you up for a date and then was like, I want to take you to meet my mom first, and then you pull into a cemetery, right? What is the first thing that you were thinking? Angie, I will start with you.
Have fun seeing your mom. I'm gonna stay here.
So you would stay in the car?
I would stay in the car. It's not my mom. I'm not getting out.
Okay, but I was like, you wouldn't leave? You would stay in the car?
He drove. What do you want to do?
Okay, all right. Producer Kim?
I would probably do the same thing Angie did. Stay in the car and
you would
say,
still
that's
take-
the last date.
No, but you
Yes.
would still go on the date with him?
What are you gonna do?
I don't know. I'm a guy, so I don't know. Maybe if you're already freaked out a little bit, right? As
Yeah,
a
you're
woman.
freaked out a little bit. You're in his car. You're just hoping, okay, let's get through this and have
Okay,
him drop me off at
okay,
home,
okay.
and that's the end of it.
Okay, so you go to the cemetery. You're like, I'm good. What if he's like, no, you have to come with me. I want you to.
At that point, I'd be like, I'm just gonna walk. Yeah, I'm just gonna walk.
So then you would leave.
yeah.
I'll meet you where we're going to go.
Okay, so say you stay in the car. He's fine with it. You get to the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't leave then. You wouldn't be like, I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be back, and then just get the fuck out of there.
I don't know because he knows where you live.
But no matter what happens on this date, he's still going to know where you live. So if you go through this whole date and you're really nice to him, you don't think that's worse? Like, you're really nice to him and everything. Like, you just never call him again. You don't think that's even worse than, like, she left before?
It's safer for you as a girl to continue on with the date and then just ghost his ass.
I don't think of things as a woman. So
Yes.
that's why I'm asking you to.
No,
But, like,
especially if you feel uncomfortable. You as a woman, you go, okay, what's the safest scenario to get out of this? And and the safest scenario dealing with crazy people is to deal with them and then ghost them as soon as you can.
which you're in a public place. Like, you could be like, oh, can someone call me a cab?
Well,
Something.
yeah, call you a cab, but then he's gonna come to your house and be like, hey, you left on our date.
I would take that as a hint to be like, okay, she doesn't want me. She left me.
Yeah, but you're not a crazy person.
But still,
So you're automatically assuming that if a guy picks you up for a day wants to
Go
take
to the
you- take you-
cemetery.
then he's a crazy person.
And then is like, hey, get out here and come to the cemetery with
Hey.
me. Then I'd be like, yeah, you're
Okay.
crazy.
Okay, what if he's like, I'm gonna go to the cemetery, like just stay here. Like he doesn't expect you to come out. So he goes, walks away.
That's fine. I mean, we all gotta go to a cemetery.
I'm not done. He goes and he walks back and is like, my mom wants to meet you.
No. Sorry.
Maybe some other time.
Yeah. I just feel like we haven't been in a relationship long enough.
I'm not
for me
ready
to meet your mother.
parents.
I would say, like, do that little, when you're in the restaurant, oh, I need to call work and see if everything's okay. Oh, I have to go.
Yeah. Thank
Can you
God
take me
for
back
cell
home?
phones.
And then, yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Ghost.
God. Yeah. You have to just ghost.
See, I'm thinking we're like, unless your mom is fucking a caretaker over there, I'm not getting out of this fucking car to meet your mom. Like,
Yeah. No. If he came back, and was like, I want you. My mom wants to meet you. Like, sorry.
So okay, you thought she was working there, and you're like, well, can't your mom come to the car?
And yeah, no, if I thought she was working there and then I walked over to a grave, I would just be like, oh, okay, I gotta go now.
You're not coming back in.
He's got the keys.
It was really lovely to meet you, but I need to go home and rethink some life choices at this point.
Let plenty of fish my ass.
My tastes and my my choices in men seem to have gone down. All
right. Well, that was our quick date poll for Maniac.
All right. Now with our poll concluded, let's talk about the whole graveyard scene where she just hits him. I missed the part where she hit him with the shovel because I looked away for a second. I'm like, why is he bleeding from the arm?
Yeah.
I want to know what he thought Rita knew.
I
He keeps going after her, and he keeps saying Rita knew, which is her friend that he murdered.
Oh yeah, we forgot
that he also went to her funeral and sent flowers to.
Oh yeah.
Did he?
When he gets into the car, or when he picks up Anna to go to the show or whatever, she leans over and gives him a little kiss, and he's like, "What's that for?" And she's like, "Oh, for sending the flowers to the funeral parlor, and and for actually going to the funeral."
Oh, I missed that.
Rita didn't have that many friends, and it was nice for you to be there.
Oh, I was eating chips still. Sorry.
He's inserted himself.
Well, that's what serial killers do.
So he's full on like Rita knew maybe.
What did she know though?
I don't know, but she knew it.
She knew something.
Can we talk about Rita's death a little bit? The whole lead up to that and how the tension was just building in that entire scene.
Oh, I know. And what was she doing in the bath? Like,
I don't know if she was sleeping.
She was sleeping. I was like, is she masturbating? Nope, she's washing. Oh, but now she's closing her eyes. What is going on with this woman?
She's trying to relax in a bath.
Well, the thing about it, though, when you saw that he stole her necklace, I thought because of the way you see the shot open is you see the closet open. So I thought, whatever reason he snuck into the apartment, he was going to come out of the closet. Because that's when he looked at each other, I'm like, he's going to come out of the closet and kill her. But no, he knocked at the door.
Yeah.
And then the one thing that I don't know if you noticed when he moved his hand down so it wouldn't lock.
Yeah, he
snapped that thing. Yeah.
And then he goes in there and you get the whole weird thing where he would think he was going to kill her, but then he doesn't kill her. And then he does the whole weird where he's like, I'm not going to kill you. And he's like, if I undo the mouth.
Oh, yeah, you're not going to scream.
Yeah, the mouth tie. He's like, if I let this.
I kind of took that whole scene that he was treating.
Yeah, he thought that was
treating
his
her
mom.
like the mom.
Yeah.
So is that how he murdered his mom then? Because that's the way
I thought he
kind of
strangled
took
her.
it. See, I don't know. Like maybe he strangled her and then stabbed her, and that's
because the hooker
death
went back and forth, and it was the
but
mom.
then
I thought
he kind of I don't know. He was treating her like the mom. Maybe he wanted to stab her, but what he actually did was strangle her, and now he's just kind of reliving this other scenario. Like he has the living embodiment of his mom in front of him, and he, this time he stabs her. He has more rage than he did when he was a kid or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, because all of a sudden he got pissed and stabbed
her.
I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know.
So he kills her, which leads us into...
Well, have you seen his fucking apartment? I'd be pissed too at everybody. Look at that.
He did that to his apartment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so he kills her, and then that's when we get into the whole final act of the movie where
they go to the cemetery.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Okay. Can we talk about real quick the montage of him having the basically the window shopping scene is what I'm call it. That was another
weird thing.
Independent, like they had to him and someone else had to go film that in the middle of the night.
Because the weird thing I thought about was when they showed that scene, I was like, oh, is he shopping for new mannequins? How the hell is he getting these mannequins?
He's window shopping. Because when they throw the old ones out, he probably just goes around or be thrift stores. I mean, who knows? But
I don't know, but he brought one in
that one he had
plastic bag. Yeah.
I'm assuming he bought that from somewhere. But again, what the fuck is the guy getting any money from? He's got a car. He's got fucking, an apartment. He's got money for mannequins and going to
dates.
The Clam Casino. He's got a couple decent suits.
Yeah.
See, this is our economy sucks, man. If you you can be a serial killer full time.
What it must have been like to have been alive and an adult in the 80s.
Live in New York City, and you're not. He's not missing any meals. Look at the guy. I mean, he's fucking paying $100 for $135 for the ultimate.
Those goddamn poor millennials are having.
Well, then the other thing I remember about the hooker scene, if she gets mad at him, is like time's ticking. He's like, I got more money.
And why? Okay, in the hooker scene, I'm like, why does he have to pay for the room? Shouldn't that be included in the price?
The room should be comped.
Yeah, she should have her own room on the regular. That's on the ready, right?
No.
No. If I'm already paying $100 for the ultimate, why do I got to kick an extra $35?
That's what they
for
should
the room
do.
tax and color TV.
That is A maintenance fee is what that is.
That is a maintenance fee.
It's a maintenance
Fine.
fee.
Well, then when he kissed her, then that better been like Listerine and fucking
Yes. Yes.
everything, everything squeaky clean is all I'm saying.
Maintenance
So fine,
fee.
if the $35 maintenance
Hey,
fee,
maybe that she likes that room because it has the best shower.
no.
You don't know.
Yeah, they're like, I want my regular. Yeah, there's no good showers in that hotel.
Yeah.
All right, so he doesn't kill Anne. He doesn't kill Anna.
She gets away, and presumably
She gets away.
She tells someone the next day. Like, what the hell? Like, takes so
No,
fucking
because he
long?
goes to the house. So I'm assuming
but
she goes
they
to the
don't-
cop and was like, "Hey," and they were like, "Oh, well, this is a hysterical woman. Let's take 20 minutes."
Yeah, but it
to let
takes
her
a
calm
fucking,
down.
at least 12 hours for them. They don't show up till the next day.
Yeah, they
The
don't
next
show up
morning
to the
or
next
whenever
morning.
need be.
But all of his mannequins come to life and murder him.
Okay, that scene in itself, wow. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very, oh my, it's very metaphorical and very, like, his, like, final descent into madness to me, to where he's like, this, all the things that I've done are going to come back to literally haunt me and kill me.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously I don't want to say commit suicide because he's technically still alive at the end.
Yeah, those police
Yeah,
did
technically.
shitty detective
They didn't
work.
stay in the room at least.
Well, I'm hoping they went to like, all right, well, he's dead. We're gonna go.
He's not dead though. They didn't.
Yeah, well,
check.
they didn't check. And I'm saying, I'm assuming that they were like, well, he's dead, so we're gonna go
Even
call.
if you don't want to touch the guy, you put a mirror. You do something.
We're
Well,
gonna
you're,
call-
supposed, you're supposed to call the coroner and everybody like, oh, this
Yeah,
dude's dead.
we're
but they
calling the
didn't even do
meat
that.
wagon. Well, they didn't have radios on them.
I don't know. You
They
just
probably
stay.
did.
At least stay in the room. Like somebody needs to keep an eye on this.
Why? Well, there was
body.
no way to get out of that.
I don't
room.
care.
Okay, well, we're getting too much into that because I do want to talk about the character, the guy Joe Spinella made the movie. So let's finish talking about the death scene, and then there's some other things that I want to talk about.
The thing that made me laugh with those cops is how those little snub nose revolvers.
Yeah, that's such like an
An 80s cop thing.
Like everyone,
And
has
even
those
when they were
little-
driving, they had the little small siren in the middle of the thing,
Yeah.
and then they're taking those sharp turns. Like
Yeah.
that dude is gonna slide.
I always think about those in when I watch old 80s movies like that. Like, did cops really have those? Like, just that one that you would put on the top? And I'm
Yeah.
like, and how the fuck did anyone ever notice that shit?
I know.
Because it's like I today, like if you didn't have like the full row of lights on your fucking car, like I wouldn't notice there was like the one fucking thing.
And where
I'd
the
be
hell
like,
was the
that's not
siren
real.
com-
I
yeah.
wouldn't even stop for you.
And where the hell is the siren coming from too? It's
I
not
know,
coming
yeah.
from that damn
Yeah,
thing.
it's all in one. It's a
Yeah.
siren and one light. So like, yeah,
But that's the one thing that cracked me up though is when they got to the apartment, they pulled out their little they had them tucked in their pants.
yeah.
Like, it's just so cheesy 80s.
That's because they were like cool 80s detectives.
Yeah.
They weren't regular cops. Who have
And then they pull out those little snub nose revolvers that barely covered their hand. I'm like, what
See, I think they were freaked out by the mannequins. They're like, I'm not standing here. Fuck this. Let's
No.
go outside.
I was like, why would you close the door?
It's a crime scene. You know?
Yes,
a crime
it's a
scene.
crime scene that you need to process. That you need to like.
They're not the CSI team.
they're
Was
gonna
there
get
a
fired is
CSI
what's gonna
team in
happen.
the 80s?
They're still, it's not full on CSI, but it would have been like, the crime scene.
The
fucking
crime
people.
lab.
Well, those cops are going to get fired because
Yeah.
we see
coroner.
him open his eyes.
You at
which
least
you can
have to
just see that
check
happen.
to see if he's alive before leaving
Poke him
the
with the
scene.
stick. Go
That's
outside.
not my
Find
job.
something.
That's the coroner's job.
I'm just gonna close this door.
My job
Hope
was
for the
fi-
best.
My job was to find the guy, and we did.
I can only imagine what the people would be like. You guys let him get away? You're like, what do you mean?
I don't get paid enough.
There wasn't anybody in there. He's like,
I
did you guys
thought-
not check on him?
I thought it was interesting how he. Okay, so you see the mannequins come to life, and they like tear his head off in a graphic.
Yeah.
Oh, that
way.
was cool.
They rip him.
Yeah,
up.
it's very cool practical effect.
the arm thing. I was like, yes.
Yeah. But then when the cops get there, it's clear that he's just stabbed himself in the chest
With the sword.
with the
Yeah.
sword, and put all the mannequins. Were they moved or?
I don't think
I think they
were
were just back where they were.
Were
I
they
don't
just
think
back where
it
they
was like
were?
They weren't moved. Like,
Yeah,
they were just
okay.
where they were.
It was such a weird ending to have all the imagery of like the head ripping off, but then just to see that he had just stabbed himself.
It was his final descension into like I'm this crazy. I need to end this. But
Yeah.
he
I'm
doesn't
this
actually end it.
crazy, but like I don't know. Like
Do you think his death was a little anticlimactic because you don't see him die?
no, I think I don't know. Like I just had problems with what they were
Going
trying to like with being crazy. So like how would that be realistic. Like, what would a crazy person think of when their head's being ripped off? Like,
he was probably just screaming.
Yeah.
so then nobody hear him?
Well, obviously.
Okay, well, the whole time he's in this place, you see one person.
Yeah.
That he's going in and out when he brings the mannequin. She's
But
like,
they
"You doing
know
some-
him, so obviously
Like, you doing
it's
some
like
Christmas shopping?
because
Yeah,
she
but-
says Mr. Zito or whatever.
Yeah,
the
but
thing about
okay,
it, though,
but
is-
he had that nightmare at the beginning of the movie and screamed. It's like no one showed up.
I
Okay,
guess.
you live in a shit apartment in New York and you hear somebody scream. You mind your fucking
You're just
business.
gonna mind your
You're not
They
gonna
only
care.
had a door. I don't think they had any windows, so I'm assuming that whatever room
I
that he
don't
was
think
in
he
there
had any windows, or if he
was
covered them.
soundproof
If you're
or
in
whatever
the,
need be.
and especially if it was like in a basement or something,
Yeah.
kind of like a basement apartment kind of thing. So I mean, who knows? But obviously, no one's really caring because they, if they did film this movie independently and just with no permits and no one knew they were filming, then yes, a lot of people screamed and no one came because they were banking on that to be able to pull some of these fucking shots off, like the exploding Tom Savini head.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true. Okay, final thoughts.
Okay, so Joe Spinell, who plays Frank Zito, it was weird to me because I never knew that he was in this movie. I never watched this movie. I've heard of it, never seen it. You will remember him as the gangster from Rocky, who is the one that Rocky worked for in the beginning. And he was also in the two Godfather movies, the first two. He played like a right-hand guy to one, like underboss to Vito Corleone. So those are the two things that I will always remember him from. And then randomly I saw that he was in this movie. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of a weird role for him. Then I find out that he wrote this movie. He actually wrote this movie, and he was a lot of influenced by Ed Gein, that kind of stuff. He read up on serial killers and got to know a lot of things and wrote this movie. The thing that I read is that John Gacy actually wanted Joe Spinell to make a movie about Gacy and play him. Like,
Ew.
yeah, so he got to a level to where like people
Knew.
were like, wow,
Yeah.
like he made that movie, like that was it. So
No.
he was trying to get a sequel to this movie going, and like after years and years, like he finally started getting things off the ground, started getting interest, and he was getting ready to, like, I don't know if he wrote it or not, but they were getting ready to start, like really getting it going.
So they're gonna do another one.
And he died
Ah,
because
damn.
he had a lot of health problems and drugs, alcohol, kind of like stuff that kind of goes along with
being
probably,
in Hollywood.
being
Yeah.
in Hollywood, New Yorker kind of stuff like that or whatever. But so I would have been really interested to see like where he wanted to take this character and like what would have happened, because I think it was such a weird fucking character, and the way that he did it I think is beautiful in its just raw grittiness. And I would really like put this up there, like this is really, to me, it's like a version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre but in the city. Like it's not a country version, it's a city version of that same type of guy. He's taking scalps, stuff like that. Like, he's in isolation by being in the middle of like the concrete jungle of New York City. So it's like you'll never find.
Well, I think knowing what you just said is it kind of adds more to that creepiness of how we were talking earlier about how it just seemed like it was real world type stuff. And it makes perfect sense now knowing that the dude researched and not talked to serial killers, but just researched all of those serial killers and actually was able to get the part down and probably get all the little nuances and put that into it, which gave it that much more creepier vibe.
Yeah, it's definitely I didn't expect everything that happened in this movie. Like, I mean, not that it wasn't, predictable or anything like that. I mean, you see where things are headed or whatever, but I didn't expect this movie to be as good as it really was.
I'm kind of going to go back and harken on his things. I didn't expect it to be what it was. I thought from the initial opening scene that it was going to be more of a slasher kind of things that we're all used to. But as the movie progressed, it just gave that creepy, realistic vibe that I started to love. And then knowing that Tom Savini was attached to it, giving all those really good practical effects that we were shown. This movie, this is, I think it's a must watch if you're a horror fan.
If the way that it starts, and then like the poster for it, it really I just always thought it was just another slasher.
Yeah, that's the one thing that makes you think about it. But like I said,
I mean, I've heard of it, but I've never heard anything really about it.
Yeah.
And I know I've seen the poster everywhere, Netflix, Amazon, like everywhere you're scrolling through movies or whatever. And it really just made it seem like it was just kind of a generic 80s slasher. So I never gave it much thought.
that's why the one thing about it that makes more sense is when you see how it was rated, I'm like, okay, if you think it's a slasher and you're like, why is this slasher so highly rated? But once you actually see it and see what the meat of the movie is, it was amazing. I liked it. I like the fact that, like Paul said, it reminds you of an independent movie. It just gives you that raw, that grittiness thing of this looks like it could actually happen.
Yeah, I loved this movie. It's a rarity to find a horror movie that is a slasher but not campy.
Yeah.
And they didn't camp up this one at all. I mean, there are a couple of the, practical effects that could look campy now just because we have better things today. But like even, they didn't put camp into this. This is a rare horror movie that makes you feel unsettled. It also gives you the gore.
Yeah.
And awesome deaths, but leaves you just feeling creeped out overall.
You really do. Like
there's not a lot of jump scares.
It makes you uncomfortable. That's the other thing about it, too. It
taps into a certain type of fear, a certain type of horror movie that it leaves you more unsettled than it does scared.
Yeah.
I think that's the scary part.
And that's the scary part, yes.
That's what makes you scared of it. Because like you're not actually scared of the character. You're not scared that, this guy's gonna come out and get you kind of thing.
No, but all the things you see, like you're just like, fuck, man.
You're like this, like nothing.
This is
it's like
uncomfortable.
nothing that I'm watching is that far fetched.
Yeah,
that it couldn't happen.
Yeah,
and nothing that I'm watching is that far fetched that it actually does not happen.
Mm-hmm.
These
and
things
like I
happen.
said, it's a very rare thing to find a slasher that doesn't have a camp element to it.
Yeah,
the campiness.
Especially from the 80s.
Yeah,
a lot of
and that's what you were saying about the poster. The poster makes it look just like any other campy 80s movie.
And that was just the style of poster.
Yeah.
So I think maybe from us looking at it, from now looking back then, it was like, that's the style of posters that they had.
And I think that's why I never really cared to seek this one out, is because it just looked like another random 80s slasher lost in the massive
it feels like the
slashers.
same generic stuff. But I mean, even in the beginning, when you see the first kill, like even if it was a straight up slasher, you'd be like, all right, this is a little different either way.
Yeah.
There's something just slightly different about this.
Yeah, it's beautifully done. Like I said, I had a couple just minimal things wrong with this movie, and it's a very rare thing that an 80s movie can make me feel so uneasy as this one did.
Yes.
And so I love this one. Like I said, I think it's a must watch. Like Saul said, it's currently on Shudder if you have Shudder,
and Amazon Prime,
so you can check this one out. We highly recommend it. We are doing Upgrade next week as another fan request. Yep, so that one will be next week, and the week after that we're looking to do The Frighteners. Yes. And so if you guys have any feedback or suggestions, anything like that, you can check us out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can email us at podcast@scarynerd.com. You can also support us on Patreon by going to patreon.com/scarynerd. You can find more fun stuff at scarynerd.com. And I think that's everything for this week. You guys got anything else?
Yes, Matt, we will get to your movies. They are on the list.
Yes, they are on the list. You had a long list, so we're going to find time to get them all in.
We'll get to it when we get to it.
We're just starting out, so we've got tons of movies to watch. Don't you guys worry. We've got some good things in the works. And we will see you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.